It's almost impossible to make a modern day teen slasher film set in small town US of A without it simply becoming a Scream copycat, and sadly, Founders Day barely even tries to show any originality to distance itself from the Wes Craven classic. Instead, it just looks like a generic bread and butter franchise sequel. In the quaint town of Fairwood, a hotly contested mayoral campaign is deep in its final act, and like real life, both candidates are willing to do almost anything to get one up on each other. There is the current mayor, Blair Gladwell, a strong yet strangely unstable female role model whose slogan batters home the importance of consistency. And then there's the opposition, Harold Faulkner, who initially comes across as a tunnel-visioned robot with perhaps even a sleazy side. No doubt both are decent candidates for the big job, but also like real life, both are pretty lousy human beings. Our introduction to Faulkner is a heated conversation between him and his daughter Melissa, in which he is berating her on the way she looks and how it will negatively affect his campaign. And shortly after this interaction, Melissa becomes the first victim of a psychotic, masked serial killer in a nifty judge's wig. She's murdered in front of her lover Allison, who manages to escape from the killer and runs into town for help. This incident kicks off a chain of paranoia in the small town and lights a rug under an already feisty election, as both candidates eventually use the subsequent murders to gain advantage in their election race. As with most whodunit slashers, the bodies soon begin to pile up, and characters soon begin to turn on each other, questioning every single move and motive. The problem with Founders Day is that there's no likable characters at all. I suppose Allison is our protagonist, but we don't really spend that much time with her early on, and we don't get any in-depth backstory into the town's lore. It's all glossed over casually, which really doesn't help us to leave our logic at the front door as we enter this madhouse. I mean, nonsensical fun and horror movies just go together, but you gotta back it up with some sort of believable story. It does feel like the film at least makes an attempt at satire, but it sort of falls flat. The film looks good for the most part, although there are some questionable editing choices, and I feel it suffers a little bit perhaps from a lack of blocking. The comedy elements don't really land, and the dialogue at times is appallingly asinine. The acting sort of drifts into parody at times too. There's a scene involving the mayor at a town meeting that is laughable for the wrong reasons. Some of the scenes felt very rushed, and the killer reveal is absolutely one of the most anticlimactic reveals I've ever seen in any of these whodunit slashers. It was really lackluster, and I'm not buying the Scream homages. The killer does a whole quasi-maniacal monologue in a black-caped, black-gloved outfit, and then, to be a little bit spoilery here, there's a second reveal after this that just made me roll my eyes even more. There's no scares, but some of the kills are pretty gruesome, even if they are all just a bit stabby, and there's a few scenes that are quite tense. I just couldn't get past the blatant copy and paste attributes in the film. There's even a very Marco Beltrami-esque musical cue in the wake of one of the murders. If you're a hardcore slasher fan, you might be all over this, but unfortunately Founders Day is bland and forgetful, and is essentially a cheaper, far less entertaining version of Thanksgiving.